hospital is going to be making a statement today at 2 o'clock this afternoon. I wanted to talk about this, and maybe you have a little knowledge, and you're listening right now and say, I'd like to pipe in on this thing. 7360186. But over the weekend, the Observer Dispatch had a pretty, would you say this would be a pretty damning headline? Mm-hmm. I thought that it was a pretty powerful headline. Child care in St. Luke's ER called dangerous. MVHS to discuss care and procedures on Monday. Facts in St. Luke's healthcare has failed to address adequately severe, disturbing, and extremely dangerous issues involving care of children in the hospital's emergency room, according to a group of pediatricians. And, of course, these are the same pediatricians. There were 3 groups that left the area. They're still working out of the area, but they're now affiliated with a hospital in Syracuse. So that was a pretty big blow. And let's go back through the timeline. This letter was sent out to parents maybe 3 weeks ago. The letter sent that said, based on our beliefs and our opinions, that your child will be better served if we are affiliated with this Golisano Hospital in Syracuse. And there were so many different things that were said about it. Now, the doctors were very vague in the letter, and they would not, we really pushed pretty intently to try to get somebody to come on and talk. No one would talk. Everybody would talk a little bit off the record, but not even that. No one wanted to talk, and they said we're just going to let the letter stand on its own. Well, the hospital came out afterwards, and that's when it was brought up that this is really about the fact that these pediatricians don't want to do emergency room calls when you're on call, especially on the weekends. They didn't want to do that, and that was what the issue was over. That, to me, created a bit of an interesting backlash against by some people, the doctors.
Right, and that had been implied, I think.
I think there was, I don't want to say the hospital was implying that, but I think people's takeaway. Mm-hmm. I heard a lot of people, and we had some calling in, saying, boy, I got to tell you, I can't believe they don't want to, take care of these other patients, and now they don't want to work these weekend hours. I think there was a bit of a negative backlash. Now, mysteriously, the Observer Dispatch comes up with a letter that was written and dated in March. It was written in March by Dr. Dawn Bard of Utica Pediatrics. And another in June was signed by all of them. But the one that was written in March made the following complaints. And the doctors termed the issues outrageous and unacceptable. It says the ER failed to diagnose a 2-year-old boy's broken clavicle until his second ER visit after falling off a swing. A provider who saw a patient with Down syndrome and pneumonia but never found out the patient had diabetes. A 14-year-old boy was sent to Syracuse for an appendectomy because the doctors allege of an ongoing problem with ER on-call surgeons who don't operate on children, a problem the doctors had been under the impression had been addressed. Remember, this is in March of this year. Quote, I need you to realize that at all times the lack of adequate medical care given to these children is dangerous, Dr. Bard wrote in her letter. It's only a matter of time until a tragedy occurs to a child because of careless, indifferent care being given by an ED, emergency department provider.
I have a question.
This letter went out in March, and I do have to, my question would be, how did the OD get this letter? Somebody must have leaked it to them, or did they know someone? Or
well, regardless of
we don't know how they got it, but they got the letter.
Right. And I guess they'll answer this at the press conference today. What effect did that have on this decision to leave, and why was, thought put on the doctor's behalf that it wasn't, instead of just coming out and mutually saying it was a decision from both parties.
I'm lost by your, I'm not following you.
There was a defensive tact once the pediatricians decided to pull.
By the hospital?
Yes.
Okay. So you're saying
so
this
is letter,
tit for tat going on here right now?
I think so. And if in fact, or it was, and if in fact this letter was legitimate, maybe that should have been stated at the beginning.
So getting back to something you said earlier about this on-call on weekends and having to cover, that was suggested as a possible reason, but did we find out that it was one of the main reasons why?
The doctor.
I hope not.
I think that what came out of this, and I'd have to go back and read the statement. Can you pull up the statement from the hospital, the original statement? I'd have to read that. I don't remember, but I do. My takeaway at least in my mind, my takeaway was this was really about the hours on weekend, the on-call hours.
If that's true, I'm just saying it's a little concerning to me because with this letter from March, it's almost like saying, and we don't know that they're saying this, I'm just trying to put two and two together here on the spot. It's like, we don't want to do the on-call. The hospital's not great, and we have all these complaints, but if you take this responsibility away from us, we'll keep coming here.
I don't
You understand
think
what I'm
that
saying?
was said, yeah.
Well, if the issue is the on-call,
remember,
We're surmising
here,
that the issue is
that's what I'm saying.
But the hospital, I believe in the hospital statement, that's where the on-call issue came out. The on-call thing was never a part of the doctor's first letter.
Correct.
So I believe the hospital response may have gone down, but I don't remember what that was.
Okay.
All I can tell you is it does seem kind of mysterious, doesn't it, that this letter pops up out of nowhere and the OD has this letter, and that probably something that had been kept private up to this point.
Oh, sure.
And I can't imagine that the hospital would have wanted this letter to get out, and now it's out. I'm not implying. I guess I'm just wondering. What do we? Is this a bit of a tit for tat? Is this okay? Well, if the doctors have come out and taken their stance, but the doctors did not want to speak. They didn't want to come out publicly. They wouldn't do any interviews. They said it stands on their own. This is our decision. But now there's been a little bit of a backlash against those doctors after the hospital response. And could this be in reaction to that? I guess it could be. What do you know? You know something? Give us a call at 736-0186. I do have to tell you, as Christine said, the hospital will be giving a statement during a press conference later on today at 2 p.m. We will be covering that. And I think a lot of people are going to be paying attention to it. A lot of people are. This is not a story that is a positive for us as a community, and certainly at a time where they're trying to raise money to put a new hospital. There's a lot of money that's got to be raised. It's got to come from donations here to put a new hospital in. Hold tight. Coming right back at WIBX.